How do you recognize people?
She's not? Okay.
John gonna be here?
Okay. Okay, how did it come out? Okay. Just so y'all know, we're running about 5 minutes late. We're waiting on the county attorney to get here. Okay.
I'm good with it. Did she get a cut?
Karen did.
Yes, she did.
Hello. I'm ready. I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem. No problem.
I'll just go first.
I'll call it in order. We'll do the pledge of allegiance invocation, then I'll turn it over to you. Okay. All right, if y'all are ready, we'll call the meeting to order. We're going to start off with the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. If you would stand. Lord, we just ask that you guide us, direct us in the decisions we make tonight, and that we do the will of the people of Walton County, and we just ask that your will be done. In Christ's name we pray, amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm going to turn this over to Sydney, for she can give a description of the job role for the Planning Commission. It seems that there's a lot of confusion as to what we do here, so I just want to make sure everyone understands what that is. So, Sydney?
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Hello, everybody. I know we've got quite a number of people in the audience, and then also some people participating via Zoom. So just real quickly, I do want to say we have three items tonight that are quasi-judicial items. For the planning commissioners, which we do have one new planning commissioner, and for the audience as well, I do want to make it clear that the role of the planning commission, especially for these quasi-judicial items, is to review the plans for consistency with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. If the evidence presented to the board indicates that the plans meet the comprehensive plan and land development code, the commissioners are obligated to approve those projects. So for anybody who comes and would like to speak on any item, we welcome your public comment on every item, including the quasi-judicial items. It is helpful for those QJ items if you can point us to any possible inconsistency you see in the land development code or comprehensive plan, because that's the role of this commission. Also, real briefly before we get started, I wanted to note that we do have people attending via Zoom. However, I don't believe anyone had provided notice that they would be presenting evidence via Zoom. So for those individuals on Zoom, we will take your public comments. However, we will not be able to swear you in as witnesses, and we won't be taking any evidence in those quasi-judicial items. So with that being said, anyone who plans on speaking in the audience, I can swear in the audience members. If you would stand at this time, if you're planning on speaking on a quasi-judicial item, and I can swear you in. Okay. Just raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide to this board will be the truth? Okay, thank you. So whenever you come forward on any of the items, just state your name, state that you've been sworn in if it's one of those quasi-judicial items. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'd like to welcome Tanner Peacock's first meeting on the Planning Commission, so welcome, Tanner. Mac, turn this over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department, C-A-R-P-E-N-T-E-R. We have three quasi-judicial items and two legislative items to hear tonight, and we have two legislative items that we have a request to continue on. Would you like to take the continuances first in the event someone might be here for either one of those items?
I'm sorry.
Would you like to take the continuances first?
Yes, please.
That would be item number 7 on tonight's agenda. The Draper Lake PUD, we have to continue to the October 8th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting at 5 p.m. in this location.
Okay, we have a motion.
Removed.
We have a motion, a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. We also have a request to continue on item number 8, the Henderson large-scale amendment. They have some final tuning to do to the developer agreement that incorporates requirements from Eglin Air Force Base to further limit this particular land use change. They should have that finished and be ready to be heard on October 8th. So this is a request to continue this project to October 8th, 2020, Planning Commission meeting at 5 p.m. in this location.
Okay, Commissioners? A motion?
Motion to approve. Continue. I'm sorry.
We have a motion, second.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. First item to be heard tonight is the Grayton Beach Motor Lodge. This is a request to approve by final order. It's been reviewed by Stephen Schoen, and I'll ask Stephen to introduce it for us.
Thank you.
Good evening, Stephen Schoen, Schoen. This is, excuse me, this is a major development order application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Grayton Forest LLC, requesting to construct a 76-room retro-style motor lodge and associated infrastructure on 5.6 plus or minus acres. This project property has a current future land use of mixed use and a zoning district of village mixed use. The project can be identified by the parcel numbers on the staff report you have in front of you. And if I would at this time, I'd like to enter it into the record, as well as the attachments that you've been presented with outside of the staff report. The cover page to the report needed some clarification there. The recommendation that you see in the report carried over from the technical review committee. Staff just clarified that as to remove the continuance.
Okay.
All planning staff, as well as engineering and other comments, have been addressed at this time. It does meet the comprehensive plan and the land development code. And the applicant, as you can see, is here and ready to go into the project further. And if you don't have any questions of me, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Did you
I
have
was just
something?
going to say for the record, so we'll accept the staff report into the
Yes.
record.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jenkins?
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering, Jenkins. I have been sworn in. I'm here representing the applicant for the Grayton Beach Motor Lodge project. I think Stephen did a good job of explaining what it is, but I'll kind of go through a few of the highlights really quickly, just so that you can get a feel for where the project is located.
No.
Hello. Okay, much better. Okay, thank you. Sorry. To give you an idea of where this project is located, we have an aerial map. The project is on 283 South, just north of 30A. It is at the very, very west end of Arbor Lane, which is an existing dirt road. It consists of about 6 acres. It's this portion of the property here, and these are the primary buildings proposed on the property. So it basically is at the dead end of this road that doesn't extend further past. There's state forest on the other side, so it can't be extended through.
Scott, just so you know, I think Karen put a pointer up there if you need to use that. Thanks.
Oh, okay, thank you. I walk around though, so I'll probably, I may use both. To give you guys an idea of what the project consists of, this is the blow up of the primary portion of the site. The property itself has a zoning designation of village mixed use, which is a mixed use category that does allow limited lodging as a primary use. The limited lodging associated with this is 76 retro style motor lodges in this proximity. There are 3 primary buildings, here, here, and here, along with parking, other infrastructure associated with it. We will have a office management building here, along with residence for on-site management, and a pool amenity area that's out. Just to run through some of the primary things with the zoning, the maximum number of rooms in this district would be 125. This is proposed at 76. The allowable height would be 4 stories or 50 feet. This is proposed at 26 feet, so 2 stories only, so we're well below the requirements there. The floor area ratio that would be allowed here would be 50%. We're at about 18%, so we're well below those requirements. The maximum impervious surface ratio is 75, and we're at about 33%, so we're less than half of what would be allowed there. We do have wetlands on the site. There's about 1.97 acres of wetlands that you can see on this edge of the property, on this edge of the property. So We're not proposing to impact at all. They stay in place, and we do have 25-foot buffers proposed around all those wetland areas. The parking requirements are 1.1 space per room, which would be a total required of 84. We have 89 spaces that are proposed on the site plan. Just to talk about the off-site improvements a little bit, there is a proposed paving of Arbor Lane. Basically from the site all the way up to 283. It will be a 24-foot wide paved road. It's a dirt road currently. Just to give you an idea, this is Sherwood. There will be a proposed 5-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk. We currently have it shown on the south side of the roadway coming in. Based on some of the comments heard from the residents in the area, they're concerned about it being on that side. So if the board wishes for us to move that to the north side of the roadway, we'd be happy to. It'll just be up to what you guys want to do here tonight, but that's certainly an option. And then just other highlights associated with this. Our stormwater management system is designed to attenuate the 25-year storm event. We also have a portion of our site that falls within a coastal dune lake protection zone. We're in a tributary, and I'll show you that. The colored area is basically the 2.2 acres of the site that falls within that tributary area, which means it's within 300 feet of a tributary that goes to a coastal dune lake. The requirements here are that we should provide a minimum of 60% total open space, 50% of that open space being undisturbed, and maximum of 40% impervious in this area. We meet all those requirements here. We're providing 60% undisturbed open space. We're at about 35% impervious, so we're well within the limitations of that. The other requirement associated with this is that we have to provide 1.5 times the typical stormwater treatment volume, which we do for this area also. The overall project, feel like meets all the requirements of Land Development Code and Comp Plan. We meet the traffic requirements. We did do a traffic study at the intersection to determine if turn lanes were warranted, and they were not. So if you have any questions about technical aspects, I'll be happy to answer them. The owner is here today, and I think he wants to say a few words also, but I'll be happy to answer anything you guys have.
Any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. For the record, my name is Lloyd Blue, Lloyd Blue. I'm the manager for Grayton Forest, the applicant and the developer. Would like to take just a couple of minutes to address a couple of issues. This project has been in the making since 2004. So it's a 16-year project. Along the way, we've looked at a number of different things to do. It was first approved conceptually for 20 townhouses on the main portion of the property, which would have been right in here during 2004, which will become relevant maybe later in the meeting. I have been a real estate development attorney for over 40 years in Walden County and have been associated with in excess of 100 projects. I'm one of the owners of the real estate at the Red Bar. I am a principal in the development of Grayton Landing, which was the redevelopment of the old Patrons project down in Grayton from 2005 and 2000 through it's currently just finishing up. I've lived in Grayton for a long time and continue to be a resident of Walden County. My family owns the projects at the foot of the 331 bridge. We purchased the old Bailey's property in 2002 and have spent millions of dollars improving it over the years. We also bought the Mangoes property across the street and have owned it since 2004, and we've done major improvements on it. We also are lucky enough to have the most beautiful parking lot in South Walton, where the giant stand of oak trees exist there at the foot of the bridge. Despite every convenience store in America trying to purchase it, I've only told them that we would consider a development on it if they could show us how they could do it without cutting a tree. And so far, nobody's been successful in doing that. My point in that is that I am invested in Walden County. Our projects that my family and I own, we are longtime owners and managers of those properties. We do not have any management companies that do that. We do it ourselves, and we treat it as though it is our home. So there's a number of things at this project, and I've had the privilege of standing up before this commission many times over the years, and as well as the county commission and the other boards that have taken place. There are a number of things about this project that we have attempted to be sensitive to minimization on. For instance, as Scott pointed out, we could have built 50 feet. You know, we could have put 125 units on it. That would have, it would have required being higher than the structures around us. We have 2 3-story houses directly adjacent to the main entrance to this project. There are other structures along that street that are taller than what we will be. The total visual impact from this project by being at the end of the street will be the 50 feet at the entrance. The rest of the structure will be below the tree line in the front, and it backs up to the state forest with a vision of the trees that will be behind it. This is the actual building that is allowed under the code. It's 50 feet tall. It has in excess of 100 units. It has parking underneath it versus what we have designed to put in there. And we did that because of trying to maintain a low profile to minimize its impact in its visual concern that it might raise. Another thing that we did several years ago, Arbor Lane is a private road that is a dirt road. Because it's a dirt road, the county cannot maintain it. Attempts to organize the property owners to create a special district or to take over the management of it never caught on. Several years ago, I had an opportunity, and we purchased that road, knowing that with the property that was at the end of it, it would one day generate enough of a project to be able to absorb the cost of paving the road for the entire neighborhood. And that's part of our plan, is to do just that. In addition to that, as part of our application, although it wasn't required, we commissioned a compatibility study, to verify the compatibility, and that compatibility study has been submitted along with our package. When we did our traffic analysis, that traffic analysis showed that we were well within existing concurrency, and the size of our project would not reduce or degrade the traffic levels. The county came back and requested that we do an additional study on turn lanes. That would have ordinarily been a problem if we had found out about it between technical review and coming to this commission. But we had already commissioned doing that study, and so it was well underway by the time, as a voluntary effort, by the time the county asked us. So we were able to submit that turn lane study that was done by Joe Poole, the former systems director for DOT and often consultant for the county on special projects. Joe has an incredible pedigree. So we've addressed the traffic issue, we've addressed the, kind of the visual issue, we've addressed the compatibility. This area of Grayton is about 40 acres. It's been zoned VMU since 1996. The majority of the uses there are all commercial uses. You have restaurants, shops. The neighbors for this property, to the north is a 5-acre storage facility that was constructed a couple of years ago. To the south, you have Frank's Hardware, county offices, shops, restaurants. To the west, you have the State Forest, which has a 50-foot burns strip between our property and that property to prevent for fire prevention. But it also is an indication that we are not butting up against an environmentally sensitive property because they have cleared it and keep it cleared to maintain it. So along Arbor Lane, the predominant use is commercial. You have Sherman-Williams up at the front. You have a new commercial facility that is being developed on the other corner. You go down the street, and the majority of the uses are commercial with a few residences intermingled, with those properties. So, this area was designed for commercial development primarily with the mixed use, and there are certainly a couple of subdivisions that are there, but those subdivisions are to the north of this property and buffered. There are none adjacent. They just happen to be north of a portion of Arbor Lane. While not required, we had a community meeting where we invited all of the residents of Grayton to attend and did an open house where we were prepared to answer questions. And if you will indulge me, I would like, for the record, to just touch on, there were approximately 9 key issues that were primary questions that were asked. The first question that was asked was, is this going to be a $30 a night hotel? And with the vision of what was seen as an inexpensive transitory place. This project is a custom designed boutique hotel. We chose I chose the 60s retro look because it's one of the most popular trends in the hotel industry right now. And I thought, as a longtime resident of Grayton, that it was more in keeping with the old beach town theme that Grayton has. It has nothing to do with an inexpensive product. We have, in the answer to that question, provided a chart. And that chart goes through and compares what an inexpensive hotel versus this hotel is like. And an inexpensive hotel averages 265 square feet. These units are 400 square feet. In addition to the 400 square feet, they have a screened porch on the rear of all of them that faces the state forest. And this design is a custom design in conjunction with a couple of prominent architects that do boutique hotels. And unlike inexpensive hotels where they stack the units back to back so that they can increase density and cheapen the price, these are single studio units that resemble condos and not hotel rooms. And so they also, the inexpensive hotels utilize a ceiling that's below 8 feet. These will have 9 feet ceilings. They'll have expensive, high-end furnishings and not low-end furnishings. The business model for this project is 3 to 4 day rentals, just like a regular house would be rented, and 3 to 4 days or weekly. The business model is designed to emphasize weekly rentals as opposed to anything at all that deals with daily. So the rates for this, the business model for this, are the rooms are in excess of $200 a night. So it's not a $30 a night, cram as many units as you can, inexpensive motel. There's questions about the ownership. Is this being done I guess it's a pretty popular shows these days, flipping Vegas, flipping everything. But we are long-term owners and holders of our real estate. We will build this project, we will own this project, and we will manage this project. And it will not have a management company. We do our own management. And as part of that management, we're not doing, one of the things that I've seen over the years is that there's a lot of electronic check-in, and that electronic check-in does not give you the opportunity to see people face to face. You don't get to check to see who's renting the property. You don't get to talk to them about, do they have the right number of cars? You don't get to go over the rules for noise, behavior, and things like that. A lot of the places now, you never see who comes in. They book online, they do electronic check-in, they get a key number and go in, and then they leave. And that, in a lot of ways, in my opinion, is set up having lack of control in rentals and created problems. I think that it provides better control and better security. And in addition to that type of management for security, we will have on-site private security. And we're lucky that the way it's designed, we have a single entrance coming in. And that entrance is totally surrounded by wetlands buffers. So we have a single point of coming in, and we'll be able to monitor that very closely for the protection of the people that are staying there as well as the community. We've already talked about land use and compatibility. As far as parking, the question was raised in the community meeting about, you only have, a little more than 1.1 units per hotel room. People may come in multiple cars. Well, the 1.1 is the code requirement, which we exceed. That's also the national standard. But in addition to that, we have additional parking that is not counted and is not required at the pool site and also at the manager rec room. Further, to be sure that we have practical parking, not just required parking, we own and we acquired as part of this project and own almost an acre of property on Highway 283 directly across from the entrance of Arbor Lane, which will be developed and utilized for overflow parking when that parking is needed, and to be assured that we don't impact our neighbors by overflow parking. Traffic, we've already addressed. We've gone above and beyond the traffic studies, and our traffic studies show that we have less impact, peak hour impact, than we would have if we did it as a single-family subdivision or as condominiums at the equal number. We kept the hotel rooms below what we could build as condos or other residences on the site. When we came up with the number, it wasn't an accident. I wanted to stay below so that it wouldn't be seen as something that was jamming units in to degrade the area, as opposed to doing what we were allowed to do if we wanted to do those units as single-family units. There's been the question about beach access and whether or not we'll overly impose on the beach at Grayton. And of course, You know, it is the #1 beach in America, and for all of us that live there, you know, it's a treasure to be protected. We think that there are several things that we can do to help limit the impact that we would have. While we're legally entitled to do it, I think it is an incumbent on all of us that are in business down there to protect the beach and minimize its impact. And, you know, our ideas to minimize that impact include the fact that we're going to be working to facilitate and encourage our guests through assistance to use the underutilized Grayton State Park. You know, it's an education, and it's assisting to facilitate them using it. You know, $5 a day for a car full of people, up to 8 people. You know, if it's go down and fight to get to the beach at Grayton, or be able to drive up and use the more spacious and open areas in the lake at the state park, we feel like that educating and facilitating that will help direct that, and also have the associated benefit of helping the revenue stream for the park. We also plan on offering alternatives to go into the beach through the YOLO company, who will be offering eco tours from the site, so that people, since our business model is for weekly rentals, you know, people, it's not like they're coming down here and their sole mission is to go to the beach for a day or two while they're down here. You're down here for a week. Generally, right after the sunburn on the second day, you're looking for an alternative to do. And so we think that we'll be able, based on that business model, to help divert, you know, people away from the beach while still allowing them to have, you know, some access to it. And then finally, part of our plan for the properties that we own is the development of a waterfront district at the foot of the bridge on the Choctawhatchee Bay. We have, in addition to the Farm and Fire restaurant and the Bay restaurant, we have over the years acquired additional property so that we can plan to create more of a waterfront park up there and just maintain the 4 existing buildings that are there. One of them is a home that was built in 1946 and stayed in the family for a long time. There's another small house there, and then we have the other 2 houses. So we plan on running a free shuttle service from this site to the bay, and allowing, which will allow us to shuttle guests up to the bay so that they'll have an alternative. I'm one of those that for years lived on the beach, and then when I got a chance to live on the bay, I wouldn't move back on the beach, you know, as opposed to the bay. The shallow water for my children, you know, the other opportunities, I think it's probably one of our least utilized assets. I'm happy to keep talking, but I'm sure I probably have worn you out already.
Will the tram stop there to carry them down to like Red Bar and places like that at the hotel?
Oh, the one that they're doing now?
Right.
No, that's, and I was in the meeting with the TDC today, you know, reviewing the success of the first period of that. And, you know, we will provide our own shuttle, our shuttle that will take people either to the state park or to the bay or down to the beach access area. We will have our own shuttle service.
And I'm assuming these rooms are a maximum of 2 adults per unit.
That's what they're planned for. The units are planned for 2 adults with a one of the new sofas that convert into children's bunk beds. Our ideal model is either a couple of adults or a family of 4 with 2 children, that the children can use the bunk beds And, but we have no real interest in exceeding that.
What about spring breakers? Will you have a minimum age?
For sure, you know, and that's one of the advantages. We've been, ever since we started this project, we've been approached by a number of national chains that, you know, wanted to either buy it or participate in it. And as soon as they start talking about, well, you know, we can show you how to save a lot of money by not having extra employees because you'll never even see the people. And I said, well, that kind of misses the point. You know, the whole thing for the whole retro motel concept is that that's part of what makes it special. That's why people want to be there. And by doing anonymous registration, you invite a problem immediately. And so when we have somebody that checks in physically and we give them a key, and our on-site manager goes over the rules and regulations, especially the provision that says if you violate these rules, you'll be kicked out of the property and you're going to forfeit, you know, the money that you paid for your stay. And, you know, that's one of the things that I think we've lost, you know, with some of the way things are handled now. But very sensitive to the security and also the way the property is maintained.
Anybody else got any questions?
And I'll, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reserve, I'm sure after public comment, there'll be some things that I'll want to address.
We'll let you
And
answer any questions,
we'll be
sure will.
prepared to do that. Thank y'all for your time.
Okay, at this time, we'll open up public comments. We've got some people that signed up. Erica Adelman.
Hello, my name is Erica Edelman. I have a question.
Spell that for the lady.
Erica, E-R-I-K-A. Last name is Edelman, E like Apple, D like David, E-L-M-A-N. We own a property just behind Lot 20. And my question is, when I'm looking at these drawings, I see, retaining walls everywhere. And this area is all low-lying, mostly wetland, almost all of it wetland. Even looks like that it's not wetland where the hotel is going, but basically it is. And it's gonna need a lots of dirt to put here to be able to build these taller buildings. So my question is, how come I don't see any retaining ponds or lakes where all the excess water would go to? Because if this is going to be built, my property, that it's not, there's no building on it right now, but eventually I'm planning to put either a house or something on it, it's going to be absolutely useless because the water is going to go into the wetland area, which it is wetland, but it's not good if it's turning into a lake or an ocean, such a deep water, and then it's going to go into the other properties that it cannot be used or absolutely useless later on.
They're
Because
required to maintain the water that comes onto the property. I'll let the engineer answer that. They've done all the engineering for this, so he can answer that question. But they were required to
right, because
retain their
when
own
I
water.
saw Cypress Breeze, they have the ponds, and those are just houses. Now, this is like a huge, and so much dirt is gonna go, so the water has to go somewhere. So where is it going?
I'll answer that
Scott?
if you're
Okay.
okay with that. Yes, the pond areas you can see here, we have pond here, larger one down here, pretty large,
property is right here. So the water that is coming this way,
Height over to this area.
Yeah.
right now, it feels like their house is here already. This little house is already water here. Because you have to divide per property. So much dirt, especially on this side, where we are. And this used to be a road that it goes this way, and come out this way. So this is Arbor Lane, but this one's Arbor Lane here too.
It-
This is a dirt road here, this is a dirt road here, coming here to this house. There's a house here.
All of this area in the wetlands is an elevation of
House
yeah,
here,
the
and there's
existing
a house
roads.
here.
Right, the existing.
Here, the Arbor Lane does not, Arbor Lane goes straight. Arbor Lane comes down here. It shows on the, it used to show on the tax map something different, but that was based on an unrecorded and not
Well, it
legal
used to
map.
be an unrecorded subdivision, and then the forestry blocked it off. So this road went here, and they put up like a fence here.
No, I put that fence up there in
I
2004,
believe
man.
it.
So,
Right, but that was for the regular road that was coming through that property, and it was fenced off, so nobody can use it anymore.
the only, the legal, excuse me, just so you know, and back, Lloyd Blue for the record, that road, the road, because it was meets and bounds lots, they gave limited rights to use it that were restricted to only access to each lot that was sold. And so, owning all of the lots that only had the right to use that, and owning the underlying road allowed me to close that off. The road over here, I still own, and you have a right to go to the lot, although you cannot get to that lot because it's all jurisdictional wetlands. But, you're certainly welcome if you ever get permits to do it, to be able to use it. But the road has never been through here, and there is no road on Arbor Lane anyplace other than a straight shot with the limited access.
So you're saying that this road wasn't part of the road for the lot? Because this is a subdivision. That's how this was sold to us, it's a subdivision.
May be able to do a little bit better clarification. If you look at this, your lot you're talking about is right here. The road stops here, that I own the road, and assisted the homes that are here, and access. So, this belongs to, and I actually bought the lot over here just to protect the seasonal stream and to put it in preservation. So, but this road, just like this road is not continuing now. So, if you get the permit to extend that road, you'll be able to do that. But jurisdictional analysis shows that all of this is a protected wetlands, which is the reason that we have it, ours is protected wetlands.
Do what?
But
Good.
just because
Because this is an easy access issue for her, so
all these were
we can just go ahead and shut that one down, I
Not
guess.
all of them were.
Ma'am, and I'm sorry to interrupt. And, you know, your comments are valid and we appreciate them, and I'm sure the developer would love to take the time and try to address these issues with you, but I know we've got a lot of people that are going to want to speak. So if you have any other comments, if you could go ahead and get those, and then we can try to,
I would just like
address
on
them.
the record to make sure that they are not turning into, just because he says it's wetland, because my house is built on wetland right now, and I'm planning to build a house there as well. So just because it's wetland, I want to be able to be used and not to have a lake, and to be as a retainer for this big project, because they have the money and they can do whatever, because I don't see how this part, make sure that the water is not here. And they're gonna put so much dirt. That's what I want to put on the record, that they're not gonna flood these properties out.
Okay, well, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, Barbara Morano.
Barbara Morano, Morano, 12 Dock Trail Lane. I didn't expect to come up so soon. I would have really liked to have listened to what some other homeowners said, but now that I'm here, I'll begin. I had the opportunity to Zoom in on August 5th for the first TRC meeting. And quite frankly, I was surprised that there weren't any feedback from people or any concern from the community. That was very surprising, because if those of you remember about the Hampton Inn or the Great and Grand, the community was very concerned. At that meeting on August 5th, the staff report wanted to continue the applicant and to another TRC meeting. But the TRC committee decided to move it to the planning stage because there was a number of issues that needed to be directed. I'm not an attorney, but when I went back and looked at the staff report on August 5th and the staff report for September 10th, there were about 55 documents that were added from that TRC meeting to this point that we have here today. My concern is they're difficult reports to look through, and I'm pleased to meet Mr. Blue. I've heard a lot about him. He's definitely a community member and a history and family, and I'm not here to object necessarily. I'm just here for more information, and just be patient with me, because again, I'm not a lawyer. But if I were, I would make a lot of money, because those 55 documents would take me forever to go through. And what I'd like to, he mentions a compatibility study. I honestly didn't see it online, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, about what he meant by a compatibility study. The other area that I looked at, and this is about land code and development code, I just went ahead online and I looked at the Village Mixed Use Center, which is what this is. And it talks.
I think you turned your microphone off.
Is that, okay. It talks about village mixed use, and it talks about, they contain an urban design amenity, pedestrian facilities, landscaping, public spaces, human scale street. It should be compatible with the abutting neighborhood uses, and again, Mr. Blue said he has a compatibility study. I haven't seen that, so maybe he can come back later and talk about that, because there are residences there. Also, they talked about, we are very close to 30A, and we're also very close to 283. And I really would like someone to explain a little bit more the land development code about what could actually be there. He mentions 125 units, but if you're building this on 98 on the scenic corridor, it's only 50 rooms. So I'm confused why we can still have 70 rooms tucked in that little section. I'm glad he had
That's a
an,
planning department.
right,
Matt,
and
can you-
maybe they'll come back.
Ms.
and-
Morano, I can
Yes.
address that directly. The limitation on US 98 in the scenic quarter, that's the US 98 331 scenic quarter, is 125 rooms. This is not part of the 30A scenic quarter, so the limitation is 125 rooms in this location. It's not restricted by the 30A scenic quarter because this location is not within that. So they could, the maximum for a hotel could be 125 rooms.
So anyway, that was confusing when I was trying to look through the land development code and what was allowed. This is also a single use. And again, from my knowledge, village mixed use is looking at all of the properties together, and this is single use. So that's a question for you, Mac. Why are we talking about a single use as opposed to more of an urban and looking at the whole project? Yeah, okay.
Yes, the proposed land use does include the minimum village mixed-use requirements. There is a commercial component, there is a recreation component, and there is a residential a component along with the, I believe it's the office, right, on the east side of the, getting my directions correct. So it's the commercial component, which is the hotel or motel, then the recreation component, the pool, then there's an office / residential component as well, part of this development. It does satisfy the minimum VMU requirements with that single residential component with the office use.
Thank you, sir.
Well, like I said, I just wanted some information, and I'll be interested to hear, and I also would like, when Mr. Blue comes back, to talk about the compatibility study.
All right,
so
thank you, ma'am. Dan Harrington?
All right, get that off, sorry. Hi, guys, I'm Dan Harrington, that's DanHerrington. I actually live on Arbor Lane. I live at 85 Arbor Lane. I own the house with my wife and our 2 children. We're very concerned about this motel being built here. Unlike Mr. Blue, this is my first time before you guys, so bear with me. I'll try to keep my comments pertinent to planning. I wasn't necessarily prepared for that until you told us that, so I'll try to stay there. My first concern is the traffic. I live there every day, so I do a study. Mr. Blue said the majority of the street is commercial. There's actually 6 homes on the street and 2 commercial businesses. So it's really, I guess, predominantly residential and not commercial. Each day, there's a very busy hair salon, so the hair salon's doing a great business, and they have a lot of people coming and going. Sherwin-Williams has trucks unloading at the end of Arbor every day as well. And we're going to add the 75 units of people coming and going to that at all hours of the day and night. Additionally, when you read their brochure, it says the retreat will encourage the use of bicycles along a newly improved Arbor Lane as a primary form of transportation to the beach to relieve traffic and parking congestion. This is from their marketing brochure. They're acknowledging the existing in traffic and parking issues, but surprisingly, there's no plans for bike lanes or a multi-use path for these bicycles, which they're considering to be the primary means to get to the beach. So I would think, not being a planning person, though, if your primary means is to getting somewhere is a bike, you need to have somewhere for the bikes. Additionally, I think we need to call this the right thing. We're calling it a motor lodge and a hotel. It's actually a motel where you drive up to your room, and I'm sure we're all familiar with what a motel is. In researching this, once I found out about it from the technical review thing that surprised us all, living there, motels attract a lot of crime. And I'm just going to read these statistics. So this is police website statistics. A drive-up motel, crimes include domestic violence, theft, auto theft, theft from autos, public drinking, drunkenness, underage drinking, vandalism, prostitution, drug dealing, and sexual assault and robbery are all common to drive-up motels. And I'm questioning, why do we want to bring this to our community? And is the sheriff's department ready for this burden? Again, I've talked to Mr. Blue, and he makes good points on how he intends to manage the motel so we don't have the issues that may be associated with this, but I don't know how you approve that up front and then hold him to that, 6 months, a year from now, if he does decide to make it an overnight motel. Or it's spring break and they're putting 4 people into a hotel room for a week. College kids, $250 divided 4 ways is a pretty cheap trip to Grayton Beach. And we know how college kids tend to be college kids. Along with that, they have a pool, and hopefully I can see it on one of the diagrams here, where the pool's located. So this is Arbor Lane, and it shows the pool, if I'm looking at this correctly, on an adjacent lot on Arbor Lane at the very front of the motel. There's gonna be a lot of noise and whatever associated with that pool, and it's not within the original acreage. It's in a separate lot actually on Arbor Lane. Why would that not have been put behind the motel so it could, create a nuisance buffer for the people that live in the area? And then again, I'm concerned, with our dune lakes. Our dune lakes are precious to us here in Walton County, and you have almost 5 acres of blacktop and buildings. All of that runoff water is going into that tributary that goes directly into the dune lake, which I think the county's already rebuilt the bridge over that dune lake twice. And we don't know what this added stormwater runoff is going to do to that situation. So I don't see how this is going to have a positive effect on anybody on Arbor Lane currently or our community going forward. So I would ask that you guys revisit it and not approve it. So thank you.
Scott, did you want to address any of that?
Yeah, just real quickly, the only thing that I could address really that he spoke of was the pedestrian connectivity of the project and using pedestrian access. There is a proposed sidewalk that will be constructed 5 foot wide. Again, like we said, currently we showed on the south side. If you guys prefer it on the north side, we can do that. That would connect to the bike path on 283. It'll cross 283 and then it'll connect to the bike path system that goes down to 30A. And then as far as the stormwater questions, I think we kind of covered that earlier, being in coastal dune lake protection zone. We do have additional standards that we have to meet, and we did meet those standards, and staff has reviewed those and agrees that we meet those standards. That's basically 150% of the standard water quality treatment that we have to do because we're in that area. So I think that addresses the couple things that I
Does the DEP have additional standards for something like?
The DEP does not.
So it's the county?
It's really the county that holds the higher standard for that.
All right. Sure. Thanks, Scott. Amy Hughes?
Hi, I'm Amy Hughes, AMYHUGHES. First of all, I'd like to thank y'all for letting me talk and voice my concerns about the Great Motor Lodge. A few days ago, I discussed with Mr. Blue about the Motor Lodge, and I asked him about his marketing plan. Mr. Blue told me he had one. I asked him where it was, and he said it was in his head. When I hear that, that makes me cringe because that means that he can change it as he goes. So when you're talking about a rate of $200 divided by 4 people, that can be a big problem. So it makes me concerned, and when I communicate with other people about the hotel, common words I hear are drugs, overcrowding, Motel 6, Chester the molester, prostitution, crime, and traffic, among many other things. There's at least 6 children that live on this street with many families, and they don't need to be exposed to that. In an article in 2019, Money Magazine, Pensacola was identified as the 5th most dangerous city in Florida, and Panama City was identified as the 4th most dangerous city in Florida. A motel like this could attract many people to come visit and stay for a short time. I realize that the meeting's more about voicing concerns about the project itself and not the renters necessarily. I own property in Old Grayton Beach, and I also own a house on 165 Arbor Lane. That property is directly across from this development, right across from the swimming pool, where I will be subjected to noise from the swimming pool, and also noise from people going up and down the street, back and forth to AJ's, to the bars at night, 2 a.m., and everything else that goes with it. Another concern is the area is located on or near the wetlands, and my arbor neighbors have witnessed hundreds of loads of dirt dumped at the property site. Don't know if that's legal, don't know if it's not legal. I've just been told by many neighbors that lots of dirt has been dumped there in the past. It currently floods in Walton County in Hidden Harbor neighborhood, Ashton Park in Freeport, Driftwood Estates, and possibly other neighborhoods. It's believed by those neighbors that the reason this flooding has been caused by the overdevelopment and filling of wetlands. What guarantees do I have that my property won't be flooded? I know Mr. Blue says it won't be flooded, but it possibly could be flooded. In almost 20 years that my house has been there, it's never been flooded. There's also other infrastructure deficiencies in Walton County, such as swimming warnings due to bacterial issues at Grady Brown Park and raw sewage currently and recently being dumped in Hogtown Bayou. I think Walton County needs to handle these issues and other developmental problems before we get into another potential problem with this development.
That's not something that we handle here, though. We look at it whether it meets the land development code or the comp plan. So you're
Okay.
talking about issues that go beyond what we're doing, so.
I understand, but I just feel like that Walton County shouldn't overload themselves when they continue to have development problems within the county. That's just my opinion.
I understand. I'm just telling you what our job description is, so
Okay.
you'll know what we work in, our parameters.
Okay, I understand. You know, recently, or several times, people have approached me about putting a halfway house on my property. And I said, absolutely not. That is not something that needs to be done on my property. I wouldn't do that to my neighbors. I wouldn't do that to the people. That's not in keeping with, even though it's village mixed use, I could probably do that. But I would not do that to the people in my neighborhood. So, lastly, if you want to know why I care about it, yes, it's going to devalue my property. That's one thing. But most importantly, I want it on the record that I'm speaking for my grandchildren, nieces, and nephews so that future generations can be able to enjoy the memories and family time at Grayton Beach. Again, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Could I ask you a question? Do you live there?
I do not live there. I rent the house. And the
So you
tenant
have
told-
rental property on Arbor Lane? That's rental property you have? Okay.
I inherited that piece of property and I rent it to someone. The person that I rent it to told me as soon as the development comes that they will be moving in 6 months. So that takes away from my rental income. It's long-term rental. It's not short-term. It's by the year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hold on just a second. Do we have anybody on Zoom that wishes to speak? Okay, we'll close this to public comment. Who did? I didn't hear you. Fred Tricker. Okay, all right, Mr. Tricker, you go ahead.
With me?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I've got a question about the coastal dune lake protection zone. And I didn't hear exactly what was said, but I think what Mr. Jenkins said was that the coastal dune lake protection zone requirements only applied to the portion of the property that's within the 300-foot zone. Is that correct?
I'll let Mr. Jenkins answer that.
That is correct, Scott Jenkins, yes. There is a line delineated on the county's GIS site, and that's where that area comes from, so yes.
Yeah, I found the line on the drawings. Okay, so when I applied for a building permit, I was told that if any portion of the property was within the 300 feet, the coastal dune lake protection zone requirements applied to the entire property. Is that, am I mistaken, or is somebody mistaken? What's the deal?
I can tell you from our experience, it applies to the 300 feet off of the coastal dune lake and does not go
Okay,
beyond
what's
that.
county policy, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Mr. Chairman, I can speak to that. The coastal dune lake protection zone does not encompass an entire parcel that is not occluded by the actual 300-foot measurement from the coastal dune lake or the tributary.
So it's just the 300 feet.
It is just the 300 feet, the portion of the property within the 300 feet.
All right, thank you. That answer your question,
Okay,
Mr.
thank you.
Trader?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. We got anybody else on Zoom? Sarah Moss. All right, Ms. Moss, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Sarah Moss. I wanted to speak on the motor lodge. I had some concerns with the consistency on this with the land development code as well. I think a few people had already brought it up as far as being wetlands and a part of the tributary to the Redfish Lake there. The soil type, if you look at the page 4 of the staff report, it actually shows that a lot of the soil is palmlico, which I actually looked up, and it's apparently decomposed organic material, which is basically muck. Page 7 of the staff report mentions that this soil actually has a water table up to 2 feet above the surface for 6 months in most years. So I was curious what type of water studies had been done regarding this property, because I have seen quite a few new developments in the area with approved stormwater plans that don't exactly work as intended as the engineers have created them to. And so I was curious on this particular property, it sounds like there's a lot of area that's that sits underwater. I did read through some of the public staff comments, and apparently there's been some concerns with illegal dumping or filling of sand in this area. And the staff report mentioned that there were no outstanding code violations. So I was wondering what the code, whether that was actually researched, if anyone has done any soil borings, or to see, whether this land has actually been filled. From the map, it's pretty clear that this is the feeder into one of the coastal dune lakes. I think we have them maybe 4 places in the entire world. And it concerns me that we are looking at filling in this swampy wetlands. I did also want to point out that on July 28th, the Walton County Board signed Resolution 2020-85, which was actually the local mitigation strategy that was, my understanding is basically to mitigate future flooding events from current development. And I do not believe that this project follows those initiatives that the Board of County Commissioners had adopted in July. And that was the local mitigation strategy regarding the protection of wetlands, reducing the effects of development on natural hazards, as well as restricting development in hazard-prone areas. I have seen Walton County build a lot in flood zones, and I think that it's a bad idea. My last comment, another thing I wanted to ask was, as far as the coastal dune lake protection zone, it's mentioned that the development should use low impact development stormwater practices. And I was curious if this plan, if they had the pervious asphalt included, if they were utilizing that type of asphalt that actually lets the water seep through it. Again, flooding is my main concern with most developments in this area, as well as the health of the dune lake and being in the basically the health of the dune lake. Parking, I've noticed, I think there was only about one parking spot per unit. And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a recently approved hotel in Miramar Beach that's having major parking issues. We have them parking all over the street because the development was not designed with adequate parking. And so I'm concerned about the number of parking spaces per room as well.
They went through the parking issue and overflow parking and things earlier. Did you hear that?
No, I'm sorry, I must have missed that, but I can backtrack on that. Thank you.
Okay.
And then one last mention, there was also, I had found an ordinance, the flood prevention ordinance. It's number 2014-05. And I don't want to bore you with all the details, but I had read through that ordinance, and I believe there are parts of this project that are not in compliance with the flood prevention ordinance either.
I'm gonna let Mac answer the question on whether it complied with the ordinance she was talking about.
Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. This project does meet the requirements in Chapter 5 related to flood damage prevention and anything related to the floodplain.
Okay, thank you. Scott, would you like to address any of the other questions you had?
Just really quickly, just to point out, the soils maps that she's referencing are NRCS soils maps that are just really high level planning kind of maps that they use. We actually have on-site specific soils investigations done on the site, and we did do this for this project, and that's what we used for the stormwater management system design. So we do have that information that shows both permeability and depth through groundwater, and that's what we base our design on. The other thing that I would just point out, she was mentioning filling wetlands on the site. We don't propose any wetland fill on the property, and we do provide a 25-foot buffer. There was a mention of retaining walls earlier. The only reason that we have any proposed retaining walls is so that we don't have to impact any buffers. And they're all probably on an average of 1.5 feet tall, and they're more like landscaping timbers. The last thing that I would say is that we don't propose to use any impervious pavement. It just, in my professional opinion, it just doesn't work very well close to the beach because it clogs up and people don't maintain it over time. So we just have standard asphalt proposed. I'll be happy to talk to Mr. Blue if he wants to consider something different, but that's our proposal now. I just wanted to point out those things, and I think that covered most of it.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, could I indulge you, the committee, for just a couple of brief comments?
Sure, you want to make sure we don't have any more public comments?
I'm sorry, I thought
I'm going to give you time to talk afterwards. Do we have anybody else on Zoom? Okay, that's it. We'll close public comments. Mr. Blue?
Just a couple of follow-ups, if I could. The picture that was painted about the potential crime and dangerous nature of this, there are, in fact, those statistics and those facilities that exist around in the country. There's a lot of old motels that have, for various reasons, become derelict. I challenge anybody here that raised that issue to show me a hotel that is designed like this with the quality and the size and the effort that we put in. And also the fact that, I've run my businesses down here for more than 25 years. I'm not going anywhere. And I challenge anybody to show one of those that's not doing a good job with what they do. You can make that case the parade of horribles, but, that's an anticipation and assume some facts, which just, I don't believe the record or the project will bear out. Second, as it deals with flooding, the low point in the subdivision is this property. If any property is going to have a problem, it will be this property, because there is a high ridge that runs through the center, and the water goes both directions. I was on this property in April of 2014, which those of you who were here know was a 1,000-year flood event and was the greatest flooding that happened in the last century around here. And while the little seasonal stream bed was strained, there was no flooding to the rest of the subdivision. The excess water was on this property, which is one of the reasons why we have gone to great length with detailed flood analysis, soil evaluations, and other things. But if there's a problem, the problem will be on this property and it won't be on the neighborhood. Now, as it relates to the allegation of hundreds of truckloads of fill being put on this, this site, I would suggest that, you know, having owned it for a very long time, the wetlands are not static. Wetlands change over time based on hydrological conditions and other climate factors. As a matter of fact, a project was approved by the county on this site in 2004, and I have the documentation, and the jurisdictional wetlands identified for protection in 2004 were approximately 25% less than the wetlands jurisdictions that we have. There's a reason the county requires a detailed jurisdictional and environmental analysis no older than 1 year in order to file for a development order. And that's because things do change. The other thing is that you are allowed in the uplands portions of your property to maintain that property. And as a matter of fact, in 2014, after the serious rain events that took place, the state and the county both authorized emergency repairs to restore property. And you can review the aerial photos and you will see that that property maintains in the same position. Has there been site work done on the property? Of course there has, over a period of 14 years. Have there been changes to the property over the last 14 years? They have. But there is documentation that shows that the amount of wetlands that were on the site over the last 14 years have increased rather than diminished. And so while I appreciate the concerns, I would have those same concerns, but I think that this project and the way it's designed, the steps we've taken to go above and beyond to address issues, you know, doesn't merits being approved, for not only because it meets the code, but it's also being done in a way that it's a positive and not a negative to the community that I live in and have lived in for a long time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. All right, board, I'd say remembering what our job description is, what are your wishes?
With the meeting the code, I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up. Hey, Matt, can we do one thing real quick? I forgot to do the agenda, the minutes from the last meeting. Can we go ahead and get that? And I did notice there needed to be a change on one thing on the as and waste services. It had me voting as yay. I did recuse myself, so I'd like to make that part of the record, if you don't mind. So, okay. With that change being made, could somebody make a motion? Motion to approve the meeting, okay. A second?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, with the change.
With the change.
A second? Tanner, you seconded? Thanks, sir. All right, all in favor? Aye? Well, all ayes?
Yep.
Okay, motion carries then. Okay, Matt?
Mr. Chairman, on the two continuances we did earlier, I made a mistake and suggested that we meet at 5 o'clock, and now we actually meet at 4 o'clock now, so if we could amend those two continuances to clarify the meeting start time and correct my error, I'd appreciate that.
Just have a motion to continue items number 7 and 8 to October 8th at 4 PM.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yeah, just to
How about a
clarify.
motion? Motion?
I'll make a motion.
You make the motion.
No second.
Second, Tanner? Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item for your consideration is item number 3, the Southeast Storage Facility Addition. This is a major development order that's been reviewed by Bob Baronti. It's submitted by Avcon on behalf of 11900 Highway 98 LLC. They're requesting approval to remove the existing 150 mini storage unit building and construct a second 3-story building totaling 61,275 square feet for a total development of 122,550 square feet of self-storage on approximately 4.01 acres with a future land use and mixed use in a zoning district of coastal center mixed use. This project's located on US 98, approximately a half mile from the intersection of North Holiday Road and US 98. We'd like to request a staff report be entered into the record. The applicant is here and is prepared to present their case.
All right, thank you, Mike. Applicant?
Hello, my name is Tanya Nation, TONIA NATION. I'm with Avcon. We're the engineer for the project. Sorry, I did not bring easels. So there's an existing major development order that was approved, and is the current build. There is a building currently under construction, a 3-story self-storage facility. These existing units today, in the original application, we were planning on keeping those. The proposed development order application shows those 3 buildings being removed and a second building being installed.
Okay.
And we tried to stay within the same footprint. We have the same vegetative buffers. We actually provided more separation so we could preserve some of those additional buffers.
All right.
So you're just taking down a couple of old buildings and building one big one?
Yes, one large building. There will be more units, but it will be definitely more aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
It'll look very nice from 98. The Scenic Design Review Board, they approved it without any issues.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you, ma'am. Do we, let's see. We have one person that would like to speak, John McGee.
Good evening. First of all, welcome to the board. 17 years ago, I served on this board, and I'm currently your South Walton Mosquito Control Commissioner for the last 16. I have to tell you that, but I'm John McGee, M-A-G-E. I live on Forest Shore Drive. I just want to ask one question because I'm a little confused with the. All right, so you're talking about, you already have a project going in. That's correct.
Mr.
right?
McGee.
You're talking about.
Mr. McGee.
Or
Mr.
tearing
McGee,
down.
could you
Yes.
direct your question this way and
Okay,
then we'll have
okay.
them answer them?
So my question is, the structures that are being removed is the existing mini storages that is currently there, been there for like 40 years. I've been around for 30, is that correct?
They were constructed in the late 80s, yes.
Right. So, okay, with that, that's good. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same project. I'm good with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there's no more, nobody else has signed up. Do we have anybody on Zoom?
Sarah Moss.
Ms. Moss?
Hi, yes, thank you. For the Miramar Beach storage, this project, I've actually followed it because I'm also in the neighborhood as well. And this project originally was presented to us back in 2018. And this is actually coming off of their, I'm sorry, let me back up a minute. This location was originally zoned as a coastal center, and it was actually changed to coastal center mixed use back in 2018. When they first applied for this change, they're coming straight off the application. It says these future improvements would be similar in scale, setbacks, and architectural appearance is the adjacent retail parcel to the west. To the west is Sugar Beach Interiors. It's a one-story warehouse and a one-story retail store with a total square footage on the entire property under 12,000 square feet. This developer originally came in and wanted to build one three-story unit, which was supposed to be 48,000 square feet. That's what the Board of County Commissioners approved, I think it was last year. Sometime with the Planning Commission, it's sneakily changed to 61,000 square feet. And now it's 3 stories at 61,000 square feet. The access was originally supposed to be on 98 only and not Forest Shore Drive. And now that they are planning the second 61,000 square feet, I would like to find out how this is in compliance with the Coastal Center mixed use. As I understand, the Coastal Center mixed use is the defined location where multiple opportunities may occur for working, shopping, entertainment, lodging, and living. And this property does none of that. It's literally just a storage facility. And so I really don't see how this could even be compliant with the existing code, being a storage warehouse. And that, maybe I'm misinterpreting something, but I would appreciate clarification on that.
Matt, can you answer that?
This is Matt Carpenter, the Planning Director. Storage is allowed in coastal center mixed use. This property does not exceed the impervious surface ratio or the floor area ratio for this land use category, and the use is allowed at the extent that is proposed.
All right, thank you. Did you have something you'd like to add?
Yes, as far as the access goes, the access on Forest Shore today, that is the primary access for the existing facility. As part of the original application, that access was to remain, but it is exit only, and that exit only access will remain as part of this project as exit only, and all the primary ingress egress will be from Highway 98.
All right, thank you. Okay, do we have anybody else on Zoom? Okay, we're going to close public comments. We'll give you a chance to respond, so go ahead.
Sorry, there was one other thing that she had mentioned about the square footage issue. There was an error in the staff report, and it was, the original staff report did say for the previous development order that there was a square footage of 48,000 and some change, and that was amended as it was just an error. It was a typographical error, but all the documents in the original application for the original development order was 61,000 square feet, and so that was something that it was just a clerical error, and that's so that was correct, but it was just it was addressed and it was approved by the Board of County Commissioners.
Okay, and okay, thank you. We're getting confirmation from the planning department. Well, public comments are closed. Do y'all have anything you'd like to add to it? Is that it?
If there's any questions, we're the builder and developer, and I'm also a resident of 382 Bay Shore. I live 2 blocks from this facility.
Okay. Commissioners, y'all got any questions?
It's in compliance with me. I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any more questions? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mac, I guess we're up to number 4.
Yes, sir. This brings us to item number 4, Otto's Carwash, SoWal. Request to approve a final order. It's a major development that's been reviewed by Bob Baronti, submitted by JP Engineering on behalf of Otto's Express Carwash LLC. They're requesting approval to construct a car wash on 2.37 plus or minus acres with a future land use of mixed use and a zoning district of village mixed use. Project's located at the corner of US 98 and Don Bishop Road and is identified by the parcel number in your package. Just for clarification, this parcel is small enough that they qualify for a single use within village mixed use zoning district. I'd like to request a staff report be entered into the record. The applicant is here and is prepared to present their case.
Okay, thank you, Mac.
Hello, Board. Thank you for your time. Matthew Parker, Parker, JP Engineering, and I have been sworn in. We're here to request the approval of the Otto's Car Wash at the corner of Don Bishop Road and Highway 98. The project meets all of the technical review, has been reviewed by staff, which is recommending approval. Traffic analysis was completed on the project, and in addition to what the traffic analysis indicated, the owner is installing a deceleration lane, right-hand turn lane off of 98 to aid in getting cars that are going to access the property off of 98 to allow for through traffic and safe merging into the property. DC Architects, Dennis Chavis, has done a wonderful job, in my opinion, of the architecture of this building. At the corner there on the east side, the southeast corner of the property, is a strip of land that is not owned by the property, that is encompassed by a DOT right-of-way or DOT protection zone, right-of-way protection zone. There's a drainage ditch that runs the historic drainage patterns. Some of the stormwater flows to 98, ultimately flows north in that drainage system. All of that's been analyzed and approved through your engineering staff. The landscaping is top-notch. It's really a beautiful design. The owners of the facility take great care in their facility. It's a very clean operation, a very community-friendly operation. During the TRC meeting, we submitted, don't quote me on the number, but I think it was 240 signatures of support for this business. And so we've got tremendous community support. We've got an owner that supports their community and is bringing before you a good project that the county will be proud of. If you've got any technical questions, I can answer them. But we have met the Land Development Code and Comprehensive Plan. So with that, I'll answer any questions at the appropriate time.
Anybody got any questions for us, applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll let you have a chance. Okay, go ahead. I'm
Is
sorry.
there going to be a turn lane to the right coming out of there?
There is if you're traveling west on 98, there's a right-hand deceleration lane. This is a right-in, right-out connection on 98. So the ability to leave the facility to 98 and turn left is not there. There's a solid medium. So it's a right-in, right-out on 98. Now over on Don Bishop Road, we've taken the connection point and put it as far north as possible, away from the intersection of Don Bishop. So in order to head east on 98, you would come out Don Bishop and then turn left at the traffic signal there. Or, yeah. Right, or median cut.
Okay, anybody else got any questions? All right. We didn't have anybody sign up to speak here, so do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close to public comments. Board, what are your wishes?
Sounds good to me. I mean, just
Motion to approve? All right, we got a second?
Second it.
Second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. This moves us to the legislative section of our agenda tonight. The next item is item number 5. This is the North Church Street rezoning. It's a request to approve by ordinance. The project's been reviewed by Bob Baronti. The application is submitted by Travis Dickerson, requesting approval to change the zoning from conservation residential 1 unit per 2.5 acres to 2 units per acre with a future land use of conservation residential on approximately 4 acres. Excuse me. Project's located from the intersection of 98 and 393 North, left on Usher Road, then to North Church Street, identified by the parcel number in your package. Uh, I'll ask Bob to briefly introduce the project also.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Very quickly, I just wanted to point out, you have a couple items in front of you that are numbered with the North Church Street rezoning. Also, you have a legal opinion from the county attorney's office stating that regardless of the rezoning, the neighborhood that uses that access easement will continue to have access to that easement.
Okay.
And all comments have been addressed. It meets the comprehensive plan. I believe the applicant is here. I'll turn it over to the applicant unless you have any questions for me.
I do have one question. It's 3.5 acres, so what's the maximum there? 7 lots?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Travis Dickerson, Dickerson. I'm just trying to rezone the 4 acres. There's 660 foot of road frontage, and I'm just going to do a family lot split and give 1 lot to each of my 4 children.
All right, anybody got any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
We didn't have anybody sign up to speak here. Do we have anybody on Zoom that would like to speak? Okay, so we'll close public comments. Board, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, Mac, last.
Thank you, Commissioners. The last item on our agenda tonight for your consideration is item number 6, the Jones rezoning. Request to approve by ordinance. The project's been reviewed by Bob Baronti. It's submitted by Henderson Engineering and Consulting on behalf of S&L Carrion Properties. They're requesting approval to change the zoning district from residential preservation to low-density residential 4-to-1, or some lesser impact zoning district with a future land use district of residential on approximately 16.1 acres. Property's located at the end of Hidden Lakes Drive, approximately 1.2 miles from the intersection of US 98 and Forest Shore, and can be identified by the project numbers in your package. We'll ask the applicant to present this particular case. It has some unique circumstances, and I think they'll be happy to explain those. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm John Henderson, Henderson Engineering. I thought I'd get an intro from Bob on this, but I guess I'm on my own here. It's currently its own residential preservation. That's, we feel, inappropriate zoning because that's for platted lots. This isn't platted. It's not a subdivision. So initially we met with the county and we thought about rezoning it to infill. And being that there's a lot of wetlands, we didn't need that extra density, so I suggested we go to low-density residential. We submitted everything, and it turns out part of the property is in the Eglin Training Cruise Missile Corridor, and they only recommend 2 units per acre in that area, so I did an overlay. So we're proposing 2 units per acre in the Cruise Missile Corridor, 4 units per acre in the rest of it. And it averages out to 2.85 units per acre property. So you can see on the survey, there's a road coming down that extends into the property. There's a water main that comes down. There's a fire hydrant at the end of the road. There's manhole beyond the road. So it was pretty much always intended for development.
Did you say it would be 2.5 units per acre?
2.85 would be the average.
How many total units would be?
46 units.
46 units.
On 16 acres.
On 16 acres, but you've got a fair amount of wetlands on there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Like 7+ acres of wetlands?
Yeah, about that, I think. It's right here on the survey. Shows 6 acres of uplands. It averages out to about, for just the density on the uplands, it's about a little over 7.5 units per acre, just on the upland area.
7.5 per acre on the uplands. Okay, thank you. Did you have anything else to add?
I believe that's it. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
I got one more. What are the surrounding properties? I know you've got commercial to the west, the same zoning as this to the south, but to the north where the subdivisions are?
It's residential preservation. They're all subdivisions, platted lots.
So what size are those lots to the north?
I wrote down I looked at the plat for, let me see if I can find here where I wrote it. I had some lot sizes. Here we go. Large lot was 4,950 square feet, and the smallest was 3,520 square feet. That's Old Florida Lakes Phase 2. That's right across.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Y'all don't have any other questions for that? Okay. I don't think we had anybody sign up. I didn't get it, so. Well, they may have put you on the same sheet or something. But anyway, John McGee. Would you like to speak?
Oh, sorry.
My name is John McGee, M-A-G-E-E. I have been a resident of Holiday Shores since 1982, 38 years, living on Forest Shore Drive, which is the principal road for the whole subdivision that also services Old Florida Lakes traffic, and then this new project. So that's one thing. But I have 3 issues. As I said earlier, I've served on your board. I know what you have to do and stick with it, within the rules. And I appreciate the work you guys do, because having done it, it's a thankless job, okay? Second thing is, I have 3 issues why I don't think this development should be even approved, and I can validate it. All right, so the first issue is, as was brought up, is wetlands. I have lived there for 38 years. I've raised 2 sons there. We have walked the lands, the property he's proposing to do in Old Florida Lakes. The whole 38 years I've lived there, the majority of it is underwater. It doesn't drain. Even during our biggest droughts over the last 38 years, it doesn't drain. There used to be alligators there all the time, right? They've since left, which is good. All right, so that's the wetlands. I'm not going to keep on going there. The developer pointed out there were wetlands. All right. The second thing is this. As I said earlier, I am a member of the Mosquito Control Commission, all right? But I'm also an environmentalist by heart. My wife and I were part of the founders of the Turtle Watch program here years ago. And why am I bringing that up? Because we're naturalists. We like to get out, and we enjoy those forests up there. On May 23rd, 2020, this year, just doing, as my wife loves to do, her birding trip, going looking at birds, okay? She ran across the skin of an indigo, eastern indigo snake's skin, which is an endangered species in the state of Florida. She took pictures of it, submitted it to Fish and Wildlife. Fish and Wildlife validated that. They said, can you go look for the snake, and it was actually in the area that the developer's talking about, which she has, and we've actually had 3 neighbors see the actual snakes, okay? They are extremely extinct. So with that said, before I go any further, I have prepared for you exactly what this snake deals with. Need to probably give it one to Matt, Mr. Harper.
I guess so.
I don't need one, Mr. McGee, thank you.
Thank you.
Top copy is just strictly the fact that the is endangered. By the state of Florida in 1978. With that, the second sheet I gave you is the actual statute that deals with endangered species.
Well, can I stop you right there?
Yes,
'Cause
go ahead.
we certainly don't deny that the indigo snake is endangered.
Right.
So,
Go ahead,
but my
Mr.
question is, I would imagine that studies would be required. If somebody found a snake out there, then studies have to be required. I mean, there would have to be proof that there's something out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what,
and Mr. McGee, just to clarify, so the request is, tonight is a rezoning, so it would not authorize any development at this point.
okay, so I just want to go on record because it'll come up again, all right? As Commissioner or Chairman Perry pointed out, all right, there's when a piece of property is coming up for rezoning to be developed or building orders in the state of Florida, and there is an endangered species that has been identified on that particular area, there has to be a survey. Fish and Wildlife has to approve it. The cost of doing that is incurred by the developer. If he doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But it does freeze future movement. I realize you guys are a recommendation, okay? But let's put the cards on the table, all right? So that's that. So now we know where we are. Everybody's got a copy. It's now an official record. Now, that's number two. Number three is the developer has said that his property is north of Old Florida Lakes, and so his traffic is going to go through Old Florida Lakes, then on to Forest Shore Drive, then to Holiday Road. That's his plan, except for one thing. I do not believe that the county has the authority, and I'm just trying to stop this before it goes too far. In other words, you approve this development, and it goes to county board of commissioners, and they say, oh, this is great. But what no one has realized is that the road from the developer's property going through Old Florida Lakes to Forest Shore is not a county road. It is a private road.
Which road is that?
That's Hidden Lakes. The county, actually today, the residents there could actually become a private subdivision just by putting gates up. The roads have never been approved by the county. The people there have been consistently denied services from the county, public works, for road repair, stuff like that, because they weren't built to the standards of the county. So you're dealing with a situation, you have a piece of property that's going to do everything correct to build, but they don't have any ingress egress legally. The people who live in that subdivision, it would require 2/3 of those people to approve the ingress egress.
Mr. McGee, do you live in that subdivision?
I live just right next to it, yes. In other words, it borders my property.
But you're not part of that subdivision?
No, but I do know it as a commissioner.
I'm just curious.
Yes, sir. No.
I don't know if we have anybody here representing that subdivision, is why
I'm not
asking.
sure.
Okay.
They may be on Zoom. But my point being is, these are the three things having sat on your board before, knowing that you need to know. You need to know, A, there's no way the county can approve the traffic through that. It's a private roads. That's how they have it listed.
I'm getting head shaking back there that it's not a private road.
But then the county might have to
If
answer
I
why
could
they-
interject here, we had a similar concern about any kind of development, and this is not at the development stage, so a lot of these comments are premature, and they can be saved for when there's a development order application. But we are not at that stage. This is a simple rezoning going from one single house, which is all they're entitled to on this 16-acre parcel today,
Right.
to some land use category that would allow some development beyond one single house. Now, one of the things I was certainly concerned about, because I've spoken to people in the neighborhood immediately north of this parcel, how in the world are you going to get access to those streets? Well, come to find out, the developer of that subdivision reserved for himself and this parcel full access to all of those streets, all the way up to Forest Shore Drive.
Except for one thing, the county never accept the roads.
And yes, sir, I understand that, but the county does not have to accept that. But what I'm going to suggest is this developer is going to have a huge task in front of him working out how those roads are going to be maintained, because he absolutely has the access rights to them the same as each of the homeowners. I was surprised to see that myself, but it is in writing, and it predates any of what we're doing today.
And again, all I'm trying to do is put it in record that the developer, by the way, who developed those roads, did not develop it by the standards of the county. Consequently, the county did not accept it. To this day, Public Works will not even fix a pothole on that road. So
Yes,
when
sir,
you're
that
gonna
is,
add
that
all-
is completely true. They are private roads, they're supposed to be managed by a homeowners association, and there is not one.
But,
It
yeah,
was never created by the original developer, and that developer still retains some interest in the common area.
That's good. So that's all I want to start it out, so that we don't wind up with a Mac Bayou issue down the road, in other words, where things weren't done right. If we know going in, things should be done correctly. That's the way I feel about it, and,
Well, you'll get another chance to speak on this because.
I'm sure.
No, they'll have to come before the board again for the development order. They can't do anything without a development order, so that comes next.
That's good. Again, I appreciate your time, and thank you, and as I said, a little bit of information is there. By the way, as I said on the endangered species, it is a situation that the state can shut the whole thing down anyway.
Well, if the state does, that would be the state.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because we already, see what actually happened, and I want this to be very clear. When we found this skin, my wife contacted the state, what do you call it, Fish and Wildlife. They already have a record of it. They already have it there, they're looking into it. It changes the whole structure of things. There's also two other endangered species on there, which we have proof of, and they're both turtles, of all things, okay? But they're endangered. And the state of Florida is getting very serious about the fact that a lot of endangered species are being moved out of areas, right, for development. And this area, like I said, for the last 30 years, it's been a swamp. And it's been a great place for animals to live. Thank you for your time. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Do we have anybody else that'd like to speak on this? We got anybody on Zoom?
Donna?
Donna? Hello, Donna,
Yes.
can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Donna Johns, Johns. I do live in the neighborhood. I look out my back door and I see that exact area that we're discussing. And I do want to say that the area is 60% wetlands. There's 7.07 acres of wetlands, and what he's going to build on is 5.39 acres. He's planning on putting 46 units on 5.39 acres. That area is full of, as Mr. McGee was talking about, the wetlands, and the sand that's there is sand that will not let the water penetrate. We have flooding issues here all the time from my road, Forest Shore, and Shore Drive. We have a lake here in Old Florida Lake that some of the runoff from that neighborhood or that area comes into our lake. And if they build houses in there, there's just no telling what kind of disaster we're going to have. It's also my understanding, I know this isn't exactly part of this, but that the building that's being planned to the west of this, then there's really going to be a big cluster here. We don't have the means to support it. We are already inundated and saturated with traffic. There is not one sidewalk in this area. So if you have, according to their own traffic study, there would be approximately 46 cars coming through, and if two people or two car owners live at each residence, you've got twice that many coming through our roads on a daily basis. And our roads are, I have been told for 18 years through everybody in planning and everybody in the county, and I have documents to prove it, including the plat that says that these roads are private and that the only opportunity is for utilities and pedestrians in this neighborhood. It's not open for anything else. We are required to maintain this neighborhood. These roads are small. I invite you to come out and look at them. They're very small. We really cannot accommodate that kind of traffic. It would be an absolute disaster, both flood-wise, traffic-wise. There's no safety, no health, no welfare for the people around here if this is allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to respond to that?
A couple of things. Traffic on Forest Shores, the road will handle 836 PM peak hour trips. It's according to the Walton County Concurrency Management System. We'll be there'll be a maximum of 93 trips with this project. That's according to Walton County's Concurrency Management. With this project, including this project, there'll be 93 PM peak hour trips. That road will support 836 trips.
How many does it have on it now?
It's got 63 now. We're adding 30. Wetlands, we don't propose to impact any of the
No,
wetlands.
you said it's got a maximum of 836. How many trips does that road that you're speaking of, is 836, have on it?
That's the capacity of the road, is 836. We only have 93 trips on it now.
Oh, you only have 93 now?
Yeah.
I thought, okay.
Yeah.
And y'all are
That's
adding-
with our project.
Okay, so 93 total with your
Total,
project.
and it'll
Okay.
carry 836.
Got you.
That's according to the Walton County CMS. Okay, the wetlands, like I said, we don't anticipate impacting any of the wetlands. We don't propose that at all. We have to come back for the development application. You'll see the whole development plans then. But at this point, we don't have any plans to impact any of the wetlands. There's been talk about endangered species. We have an environmental impact assessment. It didn't identify any threatened and endangered species on the site. They checked for them, no archaeological. They flagged the wetlands.
Do they contact Fish and Wildlife to make sure that nothing's been reported?
I'm not sure if they have or not, but when we submit the stormwater report to the DEP, they will definitely contact Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
That'll be later in the development order stage.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk about this easement. It's in the title commitment, it's on the survey. But one thing I'd like to point out to you, you can see the western portion of the property, the portion just west of Hidden Lakes Drive, how it's a little bit north. There's a jog between that parcel and the parcel just east of Hidden Lakes Drive. That jog's about 120 feet. So as people are coming down Hidden Lakes Drive, they have to drive on this parcel through the easement to get onto their Long Lake Drive, which is their southernmost drive that runs east and west. So their easement runs across this property to get to other parts of their property. So it can't be a private easement. They're using this owner's property to get to their other parts of their development.
I think Mr. Carpenter said that the property owner, this property owner, reserved an easement. Did he own the property to the north at one point?
I would expect so, because it's run through the development to the north, all the way through this parcel, and it goes through to the parcel south of us, and it terminates in a cul-de-sac.
I would assume if he must have, since he reserved an easement, I assume he reserved that easement when he sold the property to whoever developed it the first time. I don't know if that's correct, I'm asking. Because how else would he reserve an easement through there?
Oh, I'm assuming it was a developer that developed that part.
I gave him an easement through there according to what Mac's saying. There's a
He
recorded
probably
easement.
reserved it when he developed that parcel to the north.
So he developed that also.
That's what I assume.
Okay.
I mean, it was developed in the 90s.
The easement that we've reviewed speaks to specifically these developed roads in the subdivision to the north of this property.
Okay.
It's very specific.
All right. Thanks, Mac.
And so a lot about the road is also, it's a matter of maintenance versus access. It's an access and utility easement. We have the right to access. Now, whether the county maintains it or not, that's a whole different story. But the access, we have the right to access through the property.
Okay.
So I think that responds to all the comments. Anybody
Okay.
else have any other questions?
I don't think so at this point. We're going to ask you some more probably at the end, but I want to
Okay.
make sure that we've got somebody else on Zoom. Fred Tricker?
Yes, thank you. First of all, I wanted to ask about the environmental assessment. The assessment that's included in the agenda packet is for 12 acres of property, whereas the area that's being developed or rezoned is 16 acres. Is there a more current version of the environmental assessment that we don't have?
It shows the whole parcel on the map in there. They may have just mislabeled it.
I don't think it shows the whole parcel. It looks like there was a piece added down in the southeast corner that's all wetlands and all floodplain.
Is an environmental assessment required in this, Mac, or is that for the It is? Okay, but they'll have to do something, update it for the development order? If there's anything wrong with it?
It has to be current within 12 months. If they apply for a development order within 12 months of the date of this, it could still be used, or would have to be updated. It has to match the dimensions of the proposed development site.
So if there's an issue, that will come up again. Are y'all checking on that? See what, okay, thank you.
That appears to be accurate and would have to be updated before we can go any further.
Yeah, it says it's 12.08. It says 12.08 acres is listed on the Walton County Property Appraiser's website, but it doesn't list the parcel ID number, so I don't know if it was something wrong on the website or if they just didn't include one of the, that one parcel.
Yeah, I believe the second parcel was added at some point.
Okay, I see. It is, it's, let me see, tract. It's tract 11, appears to be from the aerial map they have. That is all wetlands. We'll update the environmental impact assessment, but it's really not going to change anything.
Is that going to affect our ability to move forward with it, Mac?
Mr. Chairman, we're going to recommend that we continue this to next month because we have an incomplete application.
Okay. You want a motion on that?
So moved.
Okay, a second? Second. We have a motion and a second to move this to next month. Planning Commission meeting at 4 o'clock. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, that's the last thing on the agenda. Matt, you
That's all
got
we
anything
have.
else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. That came to a sudden halt, didn't it?
Goodbye.
Yeah. Hey, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll do this again.
Cindy, did you know Karen got to cut her hair?
Denzel did it. He is,
You cut it yourself?
he got his PhD and quit doing this and started teaching at FSU now, and so he's kind of hard to get a hold of. Final did
She ran
the litigation and stuff.
She was
I
gonna
think
run
they
for
did
county
the work
commission,
for
too.
her. So they may have to
I
report
would've
it. I'll call Pat tomorrow.
We don't expect that's going to be.
Okey-doke. All right, Kevin.
How we going? That writing on any of them either? That writing on any of them either?
Oh, I didn't know if this was Lee's or yours.
No, it's mine.
Okay.
I think his is in that folder.
Okay, yeah. Just gotta make sure I have the sign.